is now past 12:05, and I would like us to kick off today's session. Yeah.
Thank you.
So today's session on design thinking is all about a defined stage. We've gone through the stages of empathy, trying to understand our customer, producing personas, producing customer journey maps, producing empathy maps, looking at scenarios, and we've just spent so much time gathering information. But doesn't mean that whilst we're gathering all this information, we don't spend time refining them. I think this is a stage more for an analyst or someone who's got that analytical mindset, who will find it refreshing and would like to know more about the customer, about their processes, about what they do and how we can improve the entire process. So initially, we're capturing the current state, and the defined stage, the analysis stage, should help us work towards gaps in the process, and then we can get to the future state or the state that we really want the system to be. So we're focusing on analysis stage, drawing onto the problem, refining the problem, and being able to gain an insight in all that is happening. But does it happen in the empathize phase? It does happen, but not as explicit, or we don't spend so much time on it like we do in the defined stage. So we'll talk about the defined stage and the things that go on the defined stage. So it's all about define and ideation. We've covered the empathize and we're focusing on define and ideation. Is it a step that does not reflect on all the other steps? Earlier on, I said it's all iterative. Once we're doing the empathize stage, we'll be doing elements of the define stage, and it's all focused on understanding the customer. When we get to the ideate stage, it's when we exploit and know much about the customer. What are some of the tools we could use in the define stage? We spend a lot of time on analysis. We are going to analyze the information we've gathered. We've gathered information on the customer, how they use the system, what they're thinking, their feelings, their touch points. And it's so much information we've gathered. And we could draw a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? The strengths are that we could be looking at the strengths of our system compared to our competitors. What are the weaknesses? What are the pain points of the system? Is there any opportunity to look at if we analyze the system, and are there any threats, potential threats we need to worry about whilst analyzing that particular system? We could also, with all the data gathered, if we had a workshop session, an online workshop session, I'm going to focus more on online activities because this is where we are going, and there'll be so much work activities happening online. For most of my training, now it's all online. I don't get the opportunity to go face to face, and I'm enjoying it in a way because it's from the comfort of home and I don't have to travel. So whilst in a workshop, you can also use affinity diagrams. You've gathered all the information you want to gather about the customer and how they use the system. You can now start grouping the information based on certain areas. You could say at the initial stage of they using the process, these are all the information that we should put in there. At the stage where they make they take an action or they get into the process, these are all the information we should put in there. At the stage where they make a payment, these are all the information we need to put in there. So it's being able to group the information for easy analysis. And that's when we start using the affinity diagram. Top findings are things that have popped up as a result of your analysis. And when you find such, they are eye-opening. They are things that you've missed or things that are there that you should have noticed, but you've missed them. So in the analysis stage, is trying to draw insights, analyzing the information, synthesizing the information, drawing any insights that would help you. So let's look at a customer visiting a particular website. A tool we can use to analyze the customer's journey and their touch points on the website is Google Analytics. And in my company, we use Google Analytics to draw insights on how our customers come onto our website. And with the Google Analytics, we also have goals for the customer. How do the customers reach their goals? Are they able to get to the point where we want them to? So we will look at the Google Analytics graph, the customer's various touch points, and we will see if the customer is nearing their goals. If the customers are not nearing their goals, we'll ask ourselves, what's stopping the customers from nearing the goals? And our analysis and synthesis of the information would help us provide better attributes or better features on the system that will draw the customers towards their goal. And I can't emphasize more on the analysis phase. Without the analysis phase, you can't measure progress. So as a design thinker, as a research analyst, you would be interested in the analysis phase and you would like to draw more information from the data you've gathered early to help you improve the customers' contact, the customers' touch points on
now.
the system.
Good. Just going to ring Charlton Park and say, is he okay? And then change his address. And he's self-funded. So you don't have any ongoing, any action. Just, I'm going to say.
Hello. Thank you so much. So in the analysis phase, let's take a look at some of the things we would analyze. The customer journey maps. It was the last topic we covered in the Empathise phase. The various stages that the customer takes when they go through the process. We will also gather data for analysis. And the data can be drawn from how the customer uses the system. And if you are a regular buyer of a product in a particular company, we would look at your buying patterns. Do you buy at the end of the month? Do you buy in the middle of the month? Or do you buy at the start of the month? And what products do you buy often so that we can make those available to you? When we draw all those data, it's the opportunity to be able to serve you and give you all the support you need during your interaction with our company. So we could be analyzing data, and we could also be analyzing the processes involved in your contacts with the company. Just a minute. And is the analysis phase important? Yes, it's the key drawing. It's the phase that would help you understand the customer more than any other thing. We've got our document analysis. There are so many documents we could look through which would enable us to understand how the customer interacts with us. So first, let's look at the forms the customer fills. Is the form in a good state that allows the customer to go through the process without facing difficulties, without having pain points? The forms could be on the website. And if the forms are on the website as well, are there obsolete informations that the customer does not have to fill that are still there? I do go into some websites and they ask questions, and you ask yourself, is this questions worth it at this particular point in time? It shows that they've not been keeping up with the customer, and they are still asking questions that might not be relevant to the customer's engagement on the platform. That would be my view. But for the business, that's information they want to gather. And if you gather such information, you should be analyzing them and seeing if they are impacting the customer's experience on your system. You could also be analyzing policies and then other artifacts that exist. Artifacts could be your website, let's say the informations that you'll be providing to the customer. If it's a product, if you send out a manual for the customer to read and use your products. You could also be analyzing all of those documents. So this is a few things that you could be analyzing to understand how the customer engages with your business. So let's look at some low fidelity artifacts. So here is the customer journey map produced in a workshop. At this stage, it's low fidelity. We can start analyzing it with the attendees in the workshop. This has got other supporting designs to support how the customer uses the product. Here is one that most of you would have come across, which looks more like a process map. And it also shows the customer's journey, and you're identifying pain points and how the customer uses that particular system. This is what most business analysts would have produced when they are conducting the process map. But in this particular process map, we only have, it looks like a happy path. You don't have alternate paths. You don't have a start point. But this is tools that you could analyze and identify the current state and the potential future state of your existing system. So it's all about analyzing, and gaining information so that you can support the customer's needs. When we analyze all this information, it helps us refine the problem statement. Here we will consider, we've done all the analysis. This is a high fidelity compared to a low fidelity, which is using the post-its. This is a high fidelity. You've done all your post-its, you've refined them. This is one that would give you a better picture of what you've done early, and you can pass it around to get feedback from your customer, from your stakeholders, and then continuously you can add to it. What are the key things we've talked about the analysis stage? We've currently discussed how we analyze our research results. We looked at our empathy maps, we looked at our documents, we looked at our processes, we looked at our business artifacts, and then we looked at our policies. From all those analyses, we can draw a SWOT analysis on them. Are there any strengths we've identified about our products? Are there any weaknesses? Are there any pain points? Are there any opportunities we've identified that we could work on? And are there any threats? And these are things that we could put in various columns and start working on them. From our SWOT analysis, we could then draw affinity diagrams, group the analysis into various columns that we want to focus on. And then if there are any insights we've drawn, we can start identifying some top findings. And the top findings are things we'll prioritize and work on with the customer. With all this analysis, you are moving from your current state into your future state. What is the current state? What's the potential future state? What are the gaps? So when you are conducting gap analysis, you could always start from here, look at the current state, and then approach it into the future state. What's the gap that I have missed? Or what are the items that I've identified that will take us into the future state? We need to first understand the current state of the customer and the business to help us go into the future states. And the analysis stage will help us develop insights, come out with a point of view, and then create a proper problem statement. We will develop insights, create a point of view after we've done the affinity, identified some top findings. We can then now move into creating a refined problem statement that will take us into developing ideas, and then we can start identifying options for the customer in the prototyping and design stage. We've touched on the define stage, but the next items I'll be looking at is I'll pick some tools expand on them in future sessions. We'll be first looking at how we develop insights from a customer journey map and how we can use that to draw some SWOT analysis. We'll define the customer's point of view, and then we'll create a problem statement. Creating a problem statement, making it more aligned and specific to the customer and to the problem we are working on, would help you deal with the situation at hand. And as a UX designer or as an analyst, you always want to know, what problem are we working on? If you don't know the problem you are working on, then you've missed the entire goal or the opportunity to solve a customer's problem. So today we've started off with the define and ideation stage, and it's an opportunity for us to analyze, synthesize, and start drawing more insights from the customer's information we've gathered during the empathy phase. Any questions on what we've covered today?
Kwame, can you please touch a little bit about the affinity diagram again? Just
Okay.
Please.
In terms of the affinity diagram, during a workshop, you would have spent so much time gathering information about a particular customer. Let's say you want to gather information about a customer who uses our e-commerce website. Everyone should talk about what they know about that particular customer and how they use the system. Once we've gathered so much information, we now spend time grouping the information we've gathered into various columns. We could group them into strengths, we could group them into weakness, we could group them into opportunities, we could group them into threats. That grouping would help us understand the customer's interaction at each point of the process, and it can help us improve the entire process. So it's grouping of information to help us understand the customer's interaction or the problem we are currently working on.
Okay, thank you very much. So the grouping could not necessarily be restricted to the SWOT, the SWOT now, because you said strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So it could cover a lot more areas, yeah?
Yeah, it could cover a lot more areas. It could, let's say,
okay.
Let's look at customers' initial interaction. We could also look at the next stage after the customer interacts with us, how they interact with our system. Then we could look at when the customer sends us all their information. We'll group all the information to that particular stage. And then when we come to processing the customer's details, that could also be another area we want to look at. And it's just grouping the various stages to make sure that we understand the problem we are resolving. It's, let's say, when we carry out a brainstorming session, many people would have attended a brainstorming session. When you attend a brainstorming session, we put all the information on the wall. Everything is put on the wall. But once you finish the brainstorming session, you want to step aside and group the information. And you could be drawing, let's say, an organizational diagram where all the information for HR is in one side, all the information for finance is on one side, all the information for operations is on one side, all the information from communications. But the first stage of the process is the brainstorming session. And then the second stage is when we draw an affinity diagram to group the information so that we can focus on each area. And if you don't group the information, it's just so much information you've gathered on the wall, and you spend so much time trying to make sense out of it. And that does not help you as an analyst or UX designer. You want to group the information so that you can analyze them properly.
Yeah, got you. So basically, yeah, understand now. So categorization of the information, yeah, understand now.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Any other questions from what we've covered? So here are the key things we said we would analyze: the customer's journey map, the data we hold, the processes, the documents, policies, and other artifacts. And our focus on the analyze stage is being able to draw insights. Without insights, we can't solve the customer's problem. And we need to measure what's currently happening to help improve the process. And it's the second stage of the design thinking process. Any other questions? Or any other additions? Anyone wants to add to the conversation? So is this silence means too much information, or silence means I've got it?
During a
Okay, go for it. Is it Uwem or Juliet? Okay, go for it.
Go for it.
no,
It's okay.
no, I'll wait after. So I'll wait for another person to go first.
It's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Uwem?
Oh, I was thinking in mapping out like maybe like a customer journey or trying to analyze it. Do we have something that we can originally draw from, like to say, okay, because in as much as we want to map a customer journey and we want to collect as much data as possible, there's nothing new there. It's been done in other places, in other similar setups. So there should be some sort of an overview of the different categories of information that we might likely have. Is there anything like that? Sort of.
Okay.
I don't know whether you understand what I'm trying to say.
I understand. I think I get it. Yeah. And in mapping out the customer journey, what I have looked at, and it's helped whilst engaging with stakeholders in a workshop. First, to start the process, you need to know what the input is and what the output is. Yeah, what the input and output is. And once you put that on the wall, the other areas I tend to focus on are, I use the puppet model. Who are the people involved? I put the people at the top, and it will be the customer, and my O becomes the organization. So it becomes the customer's interaction with the organization. Then I put processes so that I can understand more about the customer and their interaction. And then instead of I put in IT or information technology, I put down systems. So what you've done now is you've gained a better overview of the various areas that the customer would use in interacting with your existing system. So you start with the people, the organization, the various processes, and then the systems. At the very top, you could add your pain points, and it's one that when we go on to, so when you look at this, they've got the pain points at the top, the user journey, the physical touch points, the backstage, which will be the systems. And if you take a look at this as well, what they've done is the customer, the sales, which could be the organization, the repair shop, parts, purchasing, the supplier, and I would like to add the systems and the processes involved. It's a form of process mapping, but this we're focusing on the customer. And similar to what we can see here is you seeing the people, their feelings, the bank, which is the organization, and the systems, which is the technology that impacts the whole process. And if you can continuously take that holistic view, and I use the puppet model for it. The puppet model helps me to take that holistic view of the entire process so that I can always cover the key things that are needed when I am conducting a customer journey mapping exercise, or I am conducting a process mapping exercise. Is it holistic? Have I taken a view of all the areas that would support me in understanding the process? And then you write down your pain points to help you improve it. I think the pain points are very necessary, and the pain points can also be discussed as the key things that impact the system that the customer is unhappy with. And how is something that has been used in other areas and is being applied in design thinking as well to help analyze the process. Any other questions?
Nice. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So in our next session, we'll still continue with the define stage, but I would look at picking up some of the tools that are being used in the define phase. We'll run 2 sessions on this just to emphasize the define phase, the analysis. And when I am covering business analysis, the diploma in business analysis, when I'm teaching such courses, a big question I get from BAs, William, we've gathered all the information. What's the analysis phase? What do I do when I am analyzing the information? And those are some of the key things I'll touch on, but I will tweak and focus on it. I'll use both the design thinking context, and I'll use the business analysis product owner context to help with the next 2 sessions before we go into prototype and design and finish off with test and validation. Thank you, folks. It's now past, it's now 12:35, and let's have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, William.
Thanks, Will. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time.